Most men wake up too late. Don't be one of them. There's a moment that comes for most men somewhere between 40 and 60 years old. It happens differently for everyone, but when it hits hard. You wake up one morning and realize that the life you're living isn't the one you actually wanted. The career that was supposed to bring fulfillment feels empty. The relationships you thought would sustain you have grown distant. And suddenly, you're staring down the barrel of your own mortality, wondering where all the time went and why you spent so much of it chasing things that don't matter. Let me tell you something that nobody wants to admit, but everyone needs to hear. Most men wake up too late. They spend decades building a life based on what they think they're supposed to do, what others expect of them, what society tells them success looks like. And then one day they wake up and realize they've been living someone else's dream while their own has been slowly dying inside them. But here's the thing, and this is what I really want you to understand today. You don't have to be one of those men. You can wake up right now, today, in this very moment, and start making different choices. The question is whether you will. A palliative care nurse named Bronnie Ware spent years caring for people in the last weeks of their lives. She sat with them, held their hands, listened to their stories, and heard their regrets. What she discovered was that when people faced their own mortality, common themes surfaced again and again. These weren't just random complaints or minor disappointments. These were deep, soul-crushing regrets that haunted people as they lay dying. And the most heartbreaking part? Almost all of these regrets were completely preventable. They were the result of choices made or not made, paths taken or avoided, courage summoned or denied. The number one regret people expressed was wishing they had the courage to live a life true to themselves, not the life others expected of them. Think about that for a second. The most common regret among dying people isn't about money, possessions, or achievements. It's about authenticity. It's about the fact that they spent their precious, finite time on this earth pretending to be someone they weren't, following a script written by parents, society, peers, anyone but themselves. When people realize their life is almost over and look back on it clearly, they can see how many dreams went unfulfilled. Most people hadn't honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing it was due to choices they made or didn't make. The second most common regret, and this one came from every single male patient that Bronnie nursed, was wishing they hadn't worked so hard. Every man, not some men, not most men, every man she cared for deeply regretted spending so much of his life on what she called the treadmill of work existence. They missed their children's youth. They missed their partner's companionship. They sacrificed relationships and experiences and precious moments that could never be recovered, all in the name of career advancement, financial security, or simply because that's what men are supposed to do. They worked and worked and worked, and in the end, none of it mattered as much as the time they'd lost with the people they loved. The third regret was not having the courage to express their feelings. So many people suppressed what they really felt in order to keep peace with others. They settled for mediocre relationships, mediocre lives, never becoming who they were truly capable of becoming. Many developed actual physical illnesses from the bitterness and resentment they carried. They held things in, bit their tongues, swallowed their truth, and it literally poisoned them from the inside out. And why? Because they were afraid of how others might react. Because they wanted to avoid conflict. Because expressing genuine emotion felt too vulnerable, too risky, too uncomfortable. The fourth regret was not staying in touch with friends. People didn't realize the full value of old friendships until their dying weeks. And by then, it was often too late to track those friends down. They'd become so caught up in their own lives, so busy with work and responsibilities and the daily grind, that they let golden friendships slip away over the years. When they were dying, everyone missed their friends. It all came down to love and relationships in the end, not money or status or achievements. And the fifth regret was not letting themselves be happier. This one might surprise you. Many people didn't realize until the very end that happiness is a choice. They stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. They let the comfort of familiarity overflow into their emotions and their physical lives. Fear of change kept them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content, when deep within, they longed to laugh properly and have silliness in their lives again. When you're on your deathbed, what others think of you is a long way from your mind. But most people only figure that out when it's too late to do anything about it. Now, here's what makes this information so powerful and so devastating at the same time. None of this is news. If you're watching this video right now, nothing I've just said probably shocked you. Deep down, you already know these things matter. You know that being true to yourself is important. You know that working yourself to death is foolish. You know that relationships matter more than possessions. You know that expressing your feelings and maintaining friendships and choosing happiness are crucial to a well-lived life. You know all of this. And yet, if you're like most men, you're probably not living accordingly. That's the tragedy. We know what matters, and we still don't do it. Research shows that men typically experience what's called a midlife crisis between ages 40 and 55, with peak intensity around 45 to 50. There's something called the U-curve of happiness that shows life satisfaction tends to dip during midlife before rising again after age 50. What happens during this period is that men wake up and realize that neither consumerism nor what one researcher calls successism, the toxic pursuit of more success, will bring them happiness. But by then, they've built their entire lives around these pursuits. They've invested decades in climbing ladders that were leaning against the wrong walls. Friends start dying. Health scares happen. Parents pass away. Men suddenly realize they have fewer years ahead than behind. This awareness of limited time isn't morbid. It's developmental. It's a natural part of human psychology. But men rarely talk about it, so they process this awareness alone, which intensifies the crisis. And that's when the panic sets in. That's when men start making desperate decisions, blowing up marriages, quitting jobs, buying sports cars, anything to escape the crushing realization that they've wasted so much time. But here's what I need you to understand. A midlife crisis doesn't have to be a disaster. It can be a doorway. It can be the wake-up call that finally gets you to start living authentically. One expert described feeling at 47 like he was carrying 180 pounds of invisible weight, all his past identities and failures and fears strapped to his back. But the midlife period isn't about falling apart. It's about dissolving the old to make room for the new. It's about finally having the courage to let go of who you thought you were supposed to be and becoming who you actually are. The problem is that too many men wait until they're in crisis mode before they make changes. They wait until they're so miserable, so burned out, so disconnected from themselves and their loved ones that they have no choice but to blow everything up. And then they make terrible decisions because they're operating from a place of panic and desperation rather than clarity and intention. They have affairs. They abandon their families. They make impulsive purchases. They relocate across the country. They quit stable jobs without a plan. The typical man experiencing a midlife crisis deeply regrets major decisions made during the peak of the crisis. They're trying to outrun their pain, but you can't achieve your way out of an identity crisis. You can't buy your way out. You can't sleep your way out. So what's the alternative? How do you avoid waking up too late? How do you avoid becoming one of those men lying on their deathbed, filled with regret about the life they didn't live? It starts with honest self-reflection right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when things calm down at work. Right now. You need to ask yourself some hard questions and actually answer them truthfully. Are you living a life true to yourself or the life others expect of you? Are you working so hard that you're missing your children's childhood? Are you expressing your real feelings or swallowing them to keep the peace? Are you maintaining the friendships that matter or letting them slip away? Are you choosing happiness or choosing comfort and familiarity? Men in their 70s are often happier than men in their 40s. That's a documented pattern. Why? Because many of them have finally figured out what matters. They've stopped caring so much about what others think. They've stopped trying to prove themselves. They've reconnected with their values and their relationships. But imagine if you could get to that clarity now, in your 30s or 40s or 50s, instead of waiting until you're 70. Imagine how different your life could be if you made those realizations and adjustments today instead of decades from now. The truth is, making changes is scary. Living authentically requires courage because not everyone is going to support you. Some people benefit from you staying small, staying stuck, staying in the role they've assigned to you. When you start expressing your real feelings, when you start setting boundaries, when you start prioritizing your dreams over others' expectations, there will be pushback. People will be uncomfortable. They might get angry. They might try to guilt you back into your old patterns. But here's what matters. When you're dying, when you're in those final weeks looking back on your life, what other people thought of you will be the furthest thing from your mind. What will matter is whether you had the courage to be yourself and live the life you actually wanted. You need to understand something crucial about work. Yes, providing for your family matters. Yes, financial security matters. But there's a huge difference between working hard to support the people you love and working yourself into the ground chasing some arbitrary definition of success that society handed you. You can simplify your lifestyle. You can make conscious choices about what you actually need versus what you think you need. Most people discover they don't need nearly as much money as they thought if they're willing to live more intentionally. By creating more space in your life, you become happier and more open to new opportunities, ones more suited to who you actually are rather than who you've been pretending to be. And let's talk about expressing feelings because this is where so many men struggle. We've been conditioned from childhood to suppress emotions, to tough it out, to never show vulnerability. We've learned that real men don't cry, don't complain, don't admit when they're struggling, and that conditioning is literally killing us. Men die earlier than women. Men commit suicide at far higher rates. Men suffer in silence with depression and anxiety. And why? Because we won't express our feelings. We won't ask for help. We won't admit when we're drowning. We cannot control how others react to our honesty. But although people may initially react negatively when you start speaking your truth, in the end, it raises relationships to a whole new and healthier level. The people who can't handle your authenticity aren't your people anyway. For men, being committed to being a good father is a great way of navigating difficult periods in life because it helps give life true meaning. This is true even if circumstances have separated you from your children. Staying mentally and physically strong for when they need you again gives purpose and direction. Your kids are watching you. They're learning from your example what it means to be a man, what it means to live a good life. Do you want them to learn that being a man means sacrificing everything for work, suppressing all emotions, and waking up at 50, realizing you've been living someone else's dream? Or do you want to show them what it looks like to live courageously, authentically, in alignment with your values? The relationships you have with friends matter more than you realize. Men are particularly bad at maintaining friendships. We get busy with work and family, and we let those connections fade. We tell ourselves we'll reconnect later when things slow down, when we have more time. But things never slow down. Time never materializes. And then suddenly decades have passed and those friends are gone, living their own lives, or worse, they've died. You cannot get that time back. You cannot rebuild decades of lost connection in a few weeks. Make time for your friends now, not when it's convenient, not when everything else is handled. Now. And happiness. Let's talk about choosing happiness. So many men walk around acting like happiness is something that happens to you if you're lucky, something you find at the end of some achievement or acquisition. They think they'll be happy when they get the promotion, when they make enough money, when they buy the house, when the kids are grown. But happiness doesn't work that way. Happiness is a choice. It's a decision you make every single day to find joy in what you have rather than obsessing over what you don't. It's choosing to laugh, to be silly, to let go of the constant pressure to be serious and productive and impressive. Fear of change keeps most men trapped. They're not happy, but they're comfortable. They know their routine. They know what to expect. The unknown feels too risky, too uncertain. So they stay in jobs they hate, relationships that don't fulfill them, patterns that slowly drain the life out of them. And they tell themselves they're being responsible, practical, mature. But really, they're just scared. They're choosing the familiar misery over the uncertain possibility of something better. And that choice, repeated day after day for years, is what leads to those deathbed regrets. Here's what you need to do starting today. First, get clear on your values. What actually matters to you? Not what your parents said should matter. Not what society says successful people value. What do you, deep in your core, truly care about? Write it down. Be specific. Is it family, creativity, adventure, service, freedom? Once you know your values, you can start evaluating every aspect of your life against them. Your job, your relationships, how you spend your time. Does your current life align with your values? If not, what needs to change? Second, start small, but start now. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow or blow up your entire life. In fact, please don't. Making irreversible decisions in the pit of a crisis is one of the biggest mistakes men make. But you can start making small adjustments immediately. Can you leave work on time twice a week to have dinner with your family? Can you schedule a regular phone call with an old friend? Can you spend 30 minutes doing something creative that brings you joy? Can you say no to one commitment that drains you? Small changes compound over time into major transformations. Third, talk to someone. Men are so bad at this. We think we should figure everything out ourselves, that asking for help is weakness. But isolation is both a symptom and an accelerant of crisis. You need perspective. You need support. Talk to a therapist. Talk to a trusted friend. Talk to a mentor. Get the thoughts out of your head and into the open air where you can examine them with someone who cares about you. You don't have to carry this weight alone. Fourth, take care of your physical health. This might seem unrelated to living authentically, but it's not. When you're exhausted, when you're out of shape, when you're running on caffeine and stress, you don't have the energy or clarity to make good decisions. You default to autopilot. You stay in your ruts. Taking care of your body, eating well, exercising, sleeping enough, is an act of self-respect. It's saying you're worth taking care of, and it gives you the physical and mental resources you need to actually make changes. Fifth, practice gratitude, while also acknowledging what needs to change. This is a balance. You don't want to be so focused on what's wrong that you miss what's good. Many men going through difficult transitions develop tunnel vision. They can only see what they've missed, what they've lost, what they don't have. But you've also accomplished things. You've overcome obstacles. You've made good choices. You've had an impact on people. Acknowledging those things doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. It means you're building from a place of strength rather than just running from perceived failure. Let me be very clear about something. The point of all this isn't to make you feel bad about where you are right now. The point isn't to pile on more guilt or shame. You've probably got plenty of that already. The point is to give you a choice. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can continue on the path you're on and hope for the best. You can keep telling yourself you'll make changes later, when the time is right, when things settle down. And maybe that will work out for you. But statistically, it won't. Statistically, you'll wake up in 10 or 20 years with deep regrets about the time you wasted and the life you didn't live. Or you can choose differently. You can decide today that you're going to start living more authentically. You're going to start aligning your life with your actual values. You're going to start expressing your real feelings. You're going to prioritize relationships over achievements. You're going to choose happiness over comfort. It won't be easy. Change never is. There will be resistance from others and from yourself. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when you question whether it's worth it. But here's what I know. Every man I've ever talked to who made these changes, who found the courage to live authentically, who stopped chasing others' definitions of success and started pursuing his own version of a meaningful life, has told me the same thing. They wish they'd done it sooner. Not a single one has said they regret becoming more authentic, more present, more aligned with their values. Not one. The only regret is that they waited so long. Don't be that guy. Don't wait until you're lying in a hospital bed looking back on your life with regret. Don't wait until your kids are grown and gone. Don't wait until your marriage is dead. Don't wait until you've worked yourself into an early grave. Wake up now. Make different choices now. Live the life you actually want now.